What if everything you think you know is not as it seems? Quite a provocative thought, isn't it? This very question forms the crux of Immanuel Kant's monumental philosophical work, The Critique of Pure Reason. Through his work, Kant embarks on a journey to probe the limits and possibilities of human knowledge, offering us a fresh perspective on how we perceive and understand our world. Now, Kant proposes a fascinating idea that our knowledge isn't simply a result of our sensory experiences. Instead, he suggests it's a complex amalgam of these experiences and the innate structures inherent in our minds. Imagine our minds as a sieve, sifting through the sands of experiences, shaping and molding our knowledge in ways unique to each one of us. To understand this better, consider how we all experience the same event, yet our perceptions and interpretations of it can differ vastly. This is because our minds, with their unique structures, process the same sensory data in different ways, leading to a variety of perceptions and interpretations. But Kant doesn't stop there. He dives deeper into the human psyche, distinguishing between a priori knowledge, independent of experience and based on pure reason, and a posteriori knowledge, derived from empirical observations. This distinction forms the bedrock of Kant's exploration of human knowledge, setting the stage for his further philosophical musings. Moreover, Kant introduces us to the transcendental aesthetic and the transcendental analytic. These are not some fancy, high-sounding terms, but fundamental concepts and categories that structure our understanding of the world. They include notions of space, time, causality, and substance, among others, acting as necessary conditions for us to make sense of our experiences and form coherent knowledge of the world. Through the Critique of Pure Reason, Kant invites us to question our understanding of the world and the knowledge we possess. He encourages us to delve into the depths of our minds, exploring the innate structures that shape our perceptions and interpretations. So buckle up as we delve into the fascinating realm of human knowledge through the lens of Kant's philosophy. Imagine a world where all knowledge is divided into two categories. This is precisely the world that philosopher Immanuel Kant invites us to consider. In his magnum opus, The Critique of Pure Reason, Kant categorizes all human knowledge into two types: a priori and a posteriori. Let's delve into these fascinating concepts. A priori knowledge is independent of experience. That's to say, it's knowledge we can acquire without needing to observe the world around us. For instance, consider mathematical truths. The statement 2 + 2 = 4 is a priori knowledge. You don't need to count apples or observe pairs of shoes to confirm it. It's a self-evident truth, known through pure reason alone. On the flip side, we have a posteriori knowledge, which is derived from empirical observation. This is knowledge we gain by engaging with the world around us. A classic example of a posteriori knowledge is scientific facts. For instance, the law of gravity is not self-evident. It's a fact we've learned through centuries of observation and experimentation. To make it more relatable, imagine you've never seen a dog before. If someone describes a dog to you, you'd have an a priori understanding of what a dog is. But when you finally see and interact with a dog, your understanding deepens. That's a posteriori knowledge in action. In Kant's philosophy, a priori and a posteriori knowledge are two sides of the same coin. We need both to fully comprehend the world around us. A priori knowledge provides us with the basic structures and principles to make sense of our experiences, while a posteriori knowledge fills in the details, adding depth and nuance to our understanding. So in essence, Kant's world is one where these two types of knowledge go hand in hand. They're not opposing forces but complementary aspects of our cognitive toolkit. In Kant's world, both types of knowledge are crucial for understanding our reality. Have you ever pondered about the fundamental structures of our understanding? As we delve deeper into Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, we encounter the concepts of the transcendental aesthetic and analytic. These concepts, as Kant suggests, form the scaffolding of our perception and knowledge. The transcendental aesthetic refers to our basic sensory experiences of space and time. Think of it as the canvas on which our sensory impressions are painted. It's not about the colors or the shapes that the artist uses, but about the canvas itself, the space that allows for the painting to exist. This space and time, according to Kant, are not properties of the world outside, but rather innate structures of our mind that enable us to experience the world. On the other hand, the transcendental analytic refers to the fundamental categories or concepts that our mind uses to structure and make sense of this sensory data. These categories include notions like causality, substance, and quantity, among others. It's like the rules of grammar that give structure to a language, turning a jumble of words into meaningful sentences. For instance, consider how we perceive the world around us. We see objects, we hear sounds, we feel textures, but we do not simply experience these sensations in isolation. Our minds automatically arrange these sensations in relation to each other, in space and time. We perceive objects as existing spatially, in relation to each other, and temporally, in a sequence of events. This ability to structure sensory data spatially and temporally is a function of the transcendental aesthetic. Furthermore, our minds don't stop at merely arranging these sensations. We also interpret them, ascribing meaning and causality, understanding relationships between objects and events. We perceive not just a succession of events, but cause and effect. We perceive not just an array of objects, but substances with properties. These interpretations are a product of the transcendental analytic. In essence, Kant's transcendental aesthetic and analytic provide the framework that enables us to turn raw sensory data into meaningful experiences and knowledge. These categories, in Kant's view, are the building blocks of our comprehension of the world. What if the cause and effect we perceive is merely an assumption we impose on our experiences? This intriguing question leads us into the realm of Immanuel Kant's philosophy, specifically his view on the concept of causality. To understand Kant's perspective, let's consider a simple, everyday event, a billiard ball striking another. When we observe this, we naturally infer a causal relationship. The first ball hits, and the second ball moves. It seems straightforward, right? However, Kant would suggest that this cause and effect relationship is not something we directly perceive or can empirically prove. In fact, Kant argues that causality is a concept we impose on our experiences. We see one event following another and instinctively assume a causal link between them. But do we actually see causality in action? Can we empirically prove that the first ball's impact caused the second ball's motion? Not exactly. This is where Kant's philosophy becomes truly fascinating. According to him, the concept of causality is not derived from our sensory experiences alone. Instead, it's an integral part of the framework that our minds use to make sense of these experiences. So when we see the first billiard ball strike the second, we don't just see two separate events, we see them as related, as cause and effect. This is not because we have observed causality in the world, but because our minds are structured to understand events in this way. Kant's view on causality challenges the way we traditionally think about cause and effect. It suggests that our understanding of causality is not based solely on what we observe, but on the mental structures that shape our perception and understanding of the world. This perspective doesn't undermine the importance of causality. On the contrary, it emphasizes that causality is a necessary condition for us to coherently understand and interpret our experiences. Causality then is less about the world as it is, and more about how we understand it. With this Kantian lens, we can begin to see the world and our place in it from a whole new perspective. Is space a property of the external world or a construct of our perception? This question takes us into the heart of Immanuel Kant's revolutionary concept of space. Kant posits that space is not something we find out there in the physical world. Rather, it's a framework we use to organize our sensory experiences. This perception of space is not learned from experience, but is an innate part of our cognitive structure, a mental scaffolding that shapes our understanding of the world. Let's imagine walking into a room. We perceive objects in terms of their relative positions, distances, and sizes. The chair is to the left of the table, the lamp is on the table, the painting is above the fireplace, and the rug is beneath our feet. This spatial organization of objects occurs automatically, without conscious thought. It's as if we're looking at the world through spatially tinted glasses, which color our perception and understanding of reality. But if we take off these glasses, what would we see? According to Kant, without our spatial framework, the world would be a chaotic mess of sensory impressions. We wouldn't be able to differentiate between objects or determine their relationships to each other. Our ability to navigate the world, to interact with our environment, and even to have a coherent understanding of our own bodies would be compromised. Kant's concept of space is not merely about physical distances and directions. It's about the fundamental structure of our perception and cognition. It's about the way we make sense of the world and our place within it. So is space a property of the external world? Not according to Kant. It's a construct of our perception, an essential component of our cognitive architecture. It's a necessary condition for us to experience and understand the world around us. Space, much like causality, is a framework that helps us make sense of our experiences. It's a fundamental concept that shapes our perception, our understanding, and our very existence. It's a reminder that the world as we know it is, in many ways, a product of our minds.